The London 2012 Olympic Games was the most successful Games in Team GB's history. As Olympic fever swept the nation, the whole country was excited and enthusiastic about British success. But has the Olympic flame kept on burning? In this series we look at a selection of sports from the Games and look at the post-2012 impact. This week's focus is on cycling. We've travelled around the country meeting experts from the world of cycling to see the impact of the Games on the sport. This is cycling, the 2012 effect.
In July 2012, Bradley Wiggins won the Tour de France. So the whole nation went a bit cycling crazy. And then Wiggins went on to win a gold at the 2012 Games in London in the time trial. And on the track, Chris Hoy won medals and Victoria Pendleton won medals.
I think there was huge anticipation of the Olympics and the impact that the cycling teams were going to have there. And I think obviously the ongoing success of the track team, we really saw that. And people still talk to us about it now. When we go around and do our events, when I'm interviewed on the radio and things, people still talk about 2012 legacy and how are we driving 2012 legacy.
Post-2012 has just been a continuation of growth in all cycling since 2008 really. 2012 was good, but it's just meant that the growth has continued since 2008.
I think the Olympics has undoubtedly had a positive impact, certainly on the public's awareness of cycling, not only as a sport, but also as perhaps a leisure activity that people can get involved in on a day-to-day basis, not only for health benefits, but for commuting and more of a general day-to-day activity rather than a competitive sport.
Last year we had some research done actually on at our events and by Bournemouth University, and they asked the kids which bit of the whole activity do you enjoy doing most, the swim, the bike or the run, and 60% of the children actually said they enjoyed the cycling the most. Okay, which sort of raises the question, why do they enjoy cycling the most? And I think there's several factors there. I think with the success of people like Bradley Wiggins, with the Mark Cavendishes, etc., and also with the track cyclists, obviously the Chris Hoys, going back a few years, but the continued success of the track cycling teams, it's sort of a success breeds success type of story, that they're seeing these positive role models, both male and female, and these kids want to go out and have a go. And we see it here at the type of event today that all the kids want to ride the bikes. That's the main thing they want to do, is have a go at riding the bikes.
That August I ran some kids sessions here at the velodrome just in the weeks after the Olympics had finished, and we had 58 kids turned up. Almost all of them had watched it on the TV. They'd not ridden on a track before, and working with other coaches here we made sure that they all got to go on a track bike and they all experienced what it is to ride on a velodrome. But for those few months it was cycling was the most exciting thing ever.
The Games encouraged and inspired people to get out and ride, but was the right support put in place to sustain this growth?
A lot of the parents or kids that had watched the 2012 Olympics, the track cycle on the TV, knew about the track here, and we had 58 kids in the weeks after. I suppose the challenge is, how do you make that stick? In my experience, some kids that really do enjoy track cycling wanted to be track cyclists without the Olympics. They didn't need that sort of that big glittery showcase in London to make them think about cycling. They knew about it anyway and they wanted to do it. And the Olympics were the summer 2012, and this is an outdoor track, and in the autumn it's very difficult to run sessions when the wet weather arrives. The following spring comes around, 2013, and the numbers went down again. Some that were inspired by the Olympics certainly were still there the following year, but by no means all of them. And I suppose that is a worry that the 2012 Olympics had a very temporary effect on people's interest, not a permanent effect.
The legacy for us, I suppose, is at a grassroots level probably hasn't been brilliant. Everybody says cycling's the new golf, and you see loads of mammals, if you like, middle-aged men in Lycra taking it up, and a lot of women as well, but getting involved in mass participation events in sportifs, which are quite expensive to enter. But here at the Shrewsbury Sports Village, we could have had a lot more benefit from what's been happening in London. A lot of the posts here haven't got any padding, but for the road race in London they must have had loads of pads on lampposts and road furniture. Where's it all gone? Surely that stuff could have been sort of given out to clubs, community clubs like ours.
Those that organised the Olympics won it for the country will say it was about inspiring a generation, and it had a long-term impact, and I'm very sceptical there's a real long-term impact on grassroots cycling in a positive way.
One of the surprising things to me is that although the public have taken cycling on board, the media hasn't. And when you consider that in the last few years we've had 3 winners of Sports Personality of the Year have been cyclists, it does seem odd that the mainstream newspapers and TV channels aren't really taking cycling that seriously.
British cycling, it seems, they're interested in grassroots, and they do that very well with things like the Sky Ride. People that wouldn't normally ride a bike getting on a bike for the first time. For keeping fit and so on. They've done a lot of good work with cycle safety, commuting in London, for example, or big cities, trying to get people on their bikes in a safer environment on the road. And of course, they're brilliant at winning Olympic medals and creating Tour de France champions. So it does seem to be the both ends of the spectrum. Those that have never ridden before and elite level athletes get that attention. The bit in the middle, I suppose, is the worry. That's good riders that want to enjoy their sport and compete. But they're never going to be an Olympic champion. But they're certainly better than a grassroots rider that's only just taken the sport up. And that middle ground, as it were, the keen amateur, is really what a facility like this needs to be full of. But it's proving a bit more challenging than perhaps it was considered at the start. We can certainly fill this place with youngsters riding a track bike for the first time, and they thoroughly enjoy it. But then we need to take them to the next level, which is keeping them riding as a competitive amateur, a keen sports person that wants to enjoy their sport.
Youth cycling is a key element in growing the sport. Dave Mellor explains the current situation in youth cycling.
When I was a youngster, we probably had 5 members who had British cycling licences in the Mid-Shropshire Wheelers. Now it's probably 105. We've got 120 kids in our kids club. And we, as a business, that's where we put our sponsor pounds. We sponsor the kids. You'll see them going around in kits, and we've brought in other local businesses. We give every kid who races free kits, free clothing to race in. It all looks smart. It looks great.
Well, our youth programme's been going really well. We only started 3 years ago, but it's really gone from strength to strength. I think one of the great things is that people have actually heard of cycling. It's not just the parents, the kids have as well, and they know who Mark Cavendish is, and they know who Bradley Wiggins is, and they're calling each other Bradley and things like that. And we get quite good help from the council, and we get a fantastic amount of help from British Cycling with the Go Ride scheme, and that Go Ride scheme really is something that other sports are starting to copy, because it is so successful, where we've got a GB team where 60% of the riders came up through the Go Ride system, whether it be in their school or with their local club, and this is something that we'd like to emulate.
We have a club here which has children of all ages, from very young beginners to more advanced bike handlers, teaching them skills, basic skills and advanced skills, and getting them back out and encouraging them to see cycling not only as a leisure activity but potentially a sport that they could be involved in later years.
Get first-time riders excited about riding a track bike here on the velodrome and getting them riding up on the track for the first time. And without fail, they come down with a smile on their face after they've been up on the track for the first time. So a lot of my work is with younger riders who've not ridden track, but getting them introduced to it.
You've got to manage the kids' expectations that, you're a schoolboy, a youth A for 2 years. You might get out sprinted now, but if you get to something like the Scottish Youth Tour or go and race in the Irish Tour, you get that little glimpse of riding on the road. You can go and ride on a closed road, hilly circuit, and you can see what the future will be. And I think the future is really, really bright for British cycling right now.
Our ambitions are to produce national champions and world champions, and a few years ago that would seem absolutely ridiculous. But we're in a situation now where it's already happening. So there's no reason why we can't be taking 6-7-year-old children in Newport and be turning them into national or even world champions.
5 years ago, you wouldn't really have seen that many kids involved in cycling. It was quite a niche sort of elite thing where, you know, if you're into cycling, you might get your kids into cycling. Nowadays, I'm hearing a lot more of sort of just general parents, if you like, who aren't really into sports, or their kids are saying, can we go down the cycle club? I'd like to have a go at it. You know, especially with the rises in that more sort of general cycling of things like, you know, sort of cyclocross, that kind of thing where it's off-road, and it's not really sort of that niche sort of BMX trick riding type stuff. It is that more sort of, you know, racing type cycling.
Next 5 years will be more building upon what London 2012 started, and clubs like ours here and other cycling clubs we know are very oversubscribed, so that tells us that more people are interested, and I think that will potentially snowball over the next 5 years.
There's a really important point really in cycling right now in this country, and I think it's less and less to do with the Olympics really, and it's more and more about lifestyle choices, about health and fitness, about the way we plan our towns and cities. And that whole cycling revolution in London and many other big cities about people wanting to ride to work, people are driving less, the cost of petrol, driving isn't seen as cool in the way it used to be, cycling is cool, and that I think is going to carry over into cycle sports. More and more people are taking part in sportive riding, and I think that's the area where a velodrome like this needs to capitalise on, and it's to bring people in who are using the bike every day, they're perhaps getting fitter, they're riding to work more often, and they might be thinking, I might want to race my bike one day and take part in events. And that could be adults in their 40s or 50s, or young men in their 20s, women, teenagers. There's a whole range of people that, you know, are ready to take part in cycle sports, not just cycling as a pastime and people riding. And while the Olympics has been part of that, I think it's quite a small part really in getting people on bikes and racing.
With major investment in cycling throughout the UK, and with major cycle events including the Commonwealth Games and the Tour of Britain being held this year, and with events such as the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy starting in the UK, the popularity of cycling is set to reach fever pitch once more. Cycling has a huge opportunity to grow more than ever before, and this is a really exciting time for the sport.